you've just mentioned that it's not only Haaland who scores. Sometimes the midfielder scores well. So if Gabriel and Saliba are dealing with the forward player, so yeah, there has to be someone dealing with the midfielders. And what did you make of Rice in this match? Like, are you happy with him playing in that number 8 role? For me, I wanted him to play there. Obviously, I wanted Partey to play in the 6. I thought, listen, if Man City have the ball in their own half, we can actually have Rice making those interceptions and tackles in their own half, and you can create many chances from that. The performance was incredible. Like I watched the game, I was like, this guy has been stunning. And then I looked at the stats, like interceptions, like 3 or 4 tackles, like blocked shots. He cleared the ball off the line from one of those shots on target you mentioned very early in the game. And it's not only that, even the passes. I think he made like 2 key passes going forward. The Martinelli shot that he had right after coming on, our first shot on target, it was from a Declan Rice pass. Absolutely perfect throughout the game. The impact is had at Arsenal, because do you think is one of the best signings this transfer window? I know Bellingham is up there, he's done incredible, but do you think Rice is like second on that list?
I tell you what, I tell you this. Rice for me at the moment is the best signing in Europe. He's the best signing in Europe. He's been the best new addition to a team that needed what he provided, and they did have it before. And I've said it before on the on my channel as well. Look, in Jude Bellingham, you have a player who's scoring goals, right? But then you've got to ask a question: if Jude wasn't scoring these goals, and could Madrid find a way? They could find a way.
Yeah,
there's no question about that. They could find a way. He's been phenomenal. I'm not trying to write him down. He's been absolutely phenomenal. The guy is a joke. And the new role that Ancelotti has created for him, he's being compared to Kaka. Madness. Pure madness. But I think what Arsenal didn't have, and what you saw last campaign a lot, is when the ball bypassed Partey, it literally ended up on the left-hand side where the Chenko is, and it ended up in the back of the net. And Mikel was very, very spot on when he signed him. He said, I wanted a player that has the ability, the engine, and the speed to cover for the midfield, the 2 midfielders, left 8 and left right. 8 on the right on the 8 on the right hand side, and then also a player who can track back when that phase of play has gone beyond him. He can run beyond and get the ball back. That I think it was it was one of the tackles he made. I don't remember who was running with the ball. It was close to the penalty area, and he just comes back from behind and he scoops it back. Like he scoops it back from behind. Like he's so good at that. He's very good at that. And for me, he's done so many things that Partey doesn't have in his game, and he's done so many things that we didn't have last campaign. I think Partey is phenomenal, defensively, physical, and his passing range, class. I think Rice has got to work on his passing range. Partey has a very classy passing range. But when you think about the overall ability, he has a Xhaka and a Partey in one, and you've placed him in the midfield. He's been very, very good. Now, in that game, I really kind of pitied Manchester City and the Manchester City players. Because one, physically, Bernardo Silva is not to compare with Declan Rice. Lewis is not to compare with Declan Rice. Phil Foden is not to compare with Declan Rice. And even Kovacic, who I thought should have had a red card like earlier on, is not one player you would physically go, well, he will match out Declan Rice. He will put him out of the game, physically. So they had a tower of a man they were looking at, and the guy was everywhere. So he was chasing them down, and they couldn't chase him when he was in position, right? So again, it was one thing they would go, we miss Lodri. Lodri could have maybe hunted, Rice down, okay? But in that game, Manchester City have now been given another challenge. When they play for Arsenal, they've got to prepare for Martinelli. They've got to prepare for Saka, which they did very well last season. They put them out of the game very well. But now they've got to deal with the presence of Declan Rice in midfield, right? How do we stop him from being the metronome? Because when he is in possession, he's so comfortable. He allows other players to, exploit spaces, right? Because they trust him. When he's in possession, I can go. I can make a run. He will find me, and he will not lose the ball as well. So that performance for me, guys, is if he keeps on playing like that, and our centre backs play like that, right? Because he allows Alexander Zinchenko to be the best of himself. Zinchenko is not one player that wants to be worried about defending. He wants to be worried about what happens in the other penalty area. How can we impact the other penalty area, the opposition? And in most of the games, what we've seen is Rice going a little bit deep and allowing, Zinchenko ahead of himself. And he's been very free and he's done a lot of good work. But I would love to see him there more. But my problem as well, I spoke about this in the summer, is when you play him in that position and you bring in Thomas Partey, it affects the number of chances we'll be creating unless he can massively impact on, improve on, on his game. And we know Mikel can do that. He's done that with Xhaka. Xhaka assisted 7 times, like literally last season. It was unheard of, and he scored 7 times as well. So if Mikel can work on his game, make him that kind of hybrid, Frank Lampard, Gerrard kind of style, defensively chases you down, offensively he's a threat. This guy could. We talk about Ballon d'Or winners, but with this English national team and what they have in terms of talent, if they could win any major trophy, and Arsenal are arriving in that period where we can win major trophies, we might find ourselves having a Ballon d'Or podium maker in Rice.
I actually do think he's very good at attacking, but you just haven't seen it yet, because at West Ham he had to do a lot of defensive work, and at Arsenal, even at Arsenal, like every game he actually creates chances. Like, for example, if you go back to the second game of the season against Crystal Palace, where Nketiah got a one-on-one chance and tried to loop the goalkeeper, that was from a Declan Rice pass. Against Nottingham Forest, I think he had like 4 or 5 shots in the box. Yesterday, over the weekend, he passed the ball to Martinelli as well for that. Like, I'm sure he's very good at attacking. I've also had him talk about it. Like, there's a video on the England YouTube channel where they're talking with Bellingham and Maddison and Rashford, rating their FIFA cards or something. And I had Maddison saying, wow, they've actually rated your shooting very low. Maybe it's because you don't shoot a lot in the game, but we've seen you in training and we know how good you are. And that comes from his teammate. Like, he's very good at shooting and passing and in the final third. But I'm guessing we'll get to see it throughout the season. So would you want to see the Partey Rice combination more often, or do you want it to be like rotating and then in the big games, Rice and Partey?
I would still prefer Rice, Odegaard, and either Kai or Vieira, because it's the long-term strategy. It's the long-term. It's the long-term picture. I think eventually Thomas Partey is going to drop off. If it's not the injuries, it will be the age bracket where Arsenal are like, we cannot give you a 3-year contract. You're now 32, and Partey's like, I want 3 years. That those kind of stuff, and then Partey leaves. So I still want to see Rice owning that midfield. I still want to see him owning that midfield, and I'm still waiting for a run of games where he's playing with Martin Odegaard, and Martin Odegaard is a much better player. One thing people actually have not seen is that because Partey is a metronome, and Partey is more like the Lodric kind of player. He's very, very selfless. Partey literally doesn't dribble. So when he gets the ball, he quickly releases it into the channel. That's why the likes of Odegaard were very, very good last campaign. So I want to see Declan Rice form a very good partnership with the 2 number 8s in front of him. I want to see Arsenal, because we know Rice is very good. He's very good. But how do we utilize him to make the 2 players ahead of him even much better? I think Odegaard should be thinking about 20 goals this campaign, because he had 15 last campaign, right? He should be thinking about 3 more or 5 more. I think the Fabio Vieira one and Kai Havertz one is a difficult one. We have not yet settled in on one. But if it's Vieira, I want to see him go.
Smith-Rowe?
I mean, maybe Trossard as well, because Trossard had a very good preseason when he played there. So I want to see a player that I want to see a midfield that is predictable. I still want to see a predictable midfield, right? And a predictable midfield that gives us results. Last campaign it was Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard. Results were there. And the consistency were there, and it was predictable. You know who would start. You know what's going to start, and you are happy with them. So I still want to see him, Odegaard, and Fabio Vieira or Kai. There's a reason why Vieira and Kai are playing in the position, for creativity and for goals as well.
Would you do that for the Chelsea game?
Not really. Chelsea, Partey, Rice, Odegaard.
Okay, I hear you. Because after that, you have a Champions League game, and I was thinking about it. I was like, in the Champions League one, because Sevilla are very good at their place, they've actually just appointed a new coach. So you all know about the managerial bounce. I was thinking maybe start Rice Party for that Chelsea one, and then maybe start Rice and Party again for the Sevilla one, or would you
Yeah,
start Rice and then have two players?
actually, for the rest of this month, I would be okay if he played Rice Party Odegaard. I'll be very, very fine.